Okay, I guess we're not doing a video today, you guys.
Oh, good.
Jesus Christ, we've been doing this for almost 2 years, and it just gets worse. So I'm sorry for anybody that's tuning in right now. But
Oh, so we
guys,
apologize
welcome back
already.
to another episode of the Boiler Express podcast. We've got the whole crew here tonight. Before we get into anything, though, of course, I want to shout out our partnership with Big Banner Sports. You can check them out on BigBannerSports.com. Check them out on Twitter. They're probably on all the socials that I can't think of right now. Martin Vintage, check them out as well. Use code BXP at checkout for 10% off. Cincy Blitzboards, check them out as well. Great game for family, tailgates, parties, anything, you name it.
Bar mitzvahs.
Bar mitzvahs, Kwanzaa, Christmas, everything you could think of. It's a great holiday gift as well. So, and they're very customizable. You can, as you can see, my Blitzboard, Dylan's, Russ's, they're all very different from each other. They're very customizable to whatever you want. And also want to give a huge shout out to our newest partnership with College Basketball Analytics. I want to send a big thank you over to Frank, the stat tank for this one. Worked his magic and was able to get us this partnership. So now not only is Frank's brain already, 3 times the normal size, with this information at his fingertips, it's if you've ever seen Jimmy Neutron growing up, the episode where Sheen, he wants to be smart, and so he like puts something on his head and he grows like exponentially huge and then tries to take over the world. That's probably what's going to happen. I don't know how much time we have left, but College Basketball Analytics, thank you for this partnership. Thank you for making Frank's brain even bigger. I'm excited to hear just the side of basketball that the untrained eye, as our beloved coach says, doesn't see. So excited to get into all of that tonight. And so to kind of go in order here, we had 2 games this since we last met. We had Northwestern on Friday, I believe it was, and then we had Iowa last night. Obviously, Northwestern, we didn't pull it out. Lost a tough game in overtime, where Northwestern just shot very well, even with pretty contested shots. Which I don't know what it wasn't College Basketball Analytics, but Frank shared some analytic page that showed that Purdue wasn't playing bad defense. They were just hitting lights out. Northwestern was there towards the end of the game.
That was from shot quality. So they're an analytics outfit who actually like measures how good or bad each shot is. And according to them, Purdue defended them very well. Just Northwestern just hit some pretty tough shots.
Just one of those games. But Purdue turned it around on Monday against Iowa, which we'll get into as well. But guys, I mean, you saw how Twitter was, or X, after the Northwestern game. So I guess before we get into that, though, what was your thoughts like during the game? Obviously, it wasn't a game. It didn't go the way we wanted it to, but like, what were your thoughts during the game? What somebody take it over here.
Well, I was never comfortable, honestly. Even I think what was the biggest lead we had? Was it? It was like over 13. 10, right? Yeah, 12. I wanted to say 12, 13. So like when my wife and I, we watch games together, she'll like try to get underneath my skin or something, or like say like something pro the other team, and she's like, "Oh, they're gonna come back. They're gonna come back." Yeah, they're gonna come back. And tonight, and then that night, I was like, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, I mean, as we talked about last week, I was a little concerned about the game, and I even threw in the caveat: if we win the game, if we take care of the ball, and we hit some outside shots, which unfortunately we didn't do a great job of either in that game. But like I said, Northwestern's a team that likes to, or that doesn't like to, they actually do just double the post, no matter who they're playing. So they're used to, rotating out of that. They're used to kind of scrambling to make sure there's no open shots are created off of that. So yeah, just it was that, in conjunction with them playing way above their season average in terms of offense, and Purdue playing a little bit below their season average in terms of defense, and turning it over at the same rate that we have pretty much all season. But the inflated per game numbers were there because of the overtime. But yeah, it was just the perfect storm, unfortunately. Honestly, I thought the officiating was pretty good as a whole, outside of that offensive foul, that Lance Jones 5th foul. That should have been an offensive foul in my opinion, but outside of that, they did a really good job. But hats off to Northwestern. It was just a really well played game on their end. Boo Buie hit some really tough shots. He was 10 for 20 from the floor, which, in like my memory of the game, it seemed like he didn't miss at all. So that was pretty impressive. But yeah, someone else, any more thoughts?
So like the whole time I was just kind of on edge
about the whole thing. Just because what we talked about, like just Northwestern here in the last few years has kind of turned into Rutgers a little bit when it comes to just kind of getting under skin and being a problem. But that said, I think we saw from the Iowa game, we learned a lot. And we've responded the way we should from a loss like that. It seems like the guys took it to heart. So
I would say the thing that made me the most angry post game, talking about Twitter and the way people reacted, was the fact that they took the low hanging fruit and they took the answer of the people that don't know the game well, and just said, "Oh, obviously, Braden Fletch aren't mature enough. We haven't figured out guard play. We don't know how to play their guards well. Our guards haven't maybe made that full next step, whatever." But if you look at this year compared to last year, our guards played much, much better this year against Northwestern than last year. I mean, if you look at their output, I think it was Braden Fletch and Morton were the starting 1, 2, and 3 positions last year. They combined for 17 points. Fletch had 17 alone in this game. Lance added another 10 with 5 rebounds, and Braden went 12, 7, and 9, almost getting another triple-double. It was really our bigs that didn't provide a lot of support and also turned it over a lot. So you talk about how much Braden handles the ball, and he had 6 turnovers in the game. Between Trey Kaufman-Wren and Mason Gillis, they had 5 turnovers between the two of them. And think about how little they handle the ball compared to Braden. And the 3 bigs outside of Edey combined had only 11 points. So we need a little bit more from our support bigs, I think, in a game like that. I don't think our guards did poorly at all.
Yeah, the fan base definitely was on the brink of disaster. It seemed
they're
like
running around like their damn hair was on fire.
And it for me, man, it's like what are the chances college basketball teams go undefeated? Like it's not something you see a lot. And they went from like everything's great, number 1 in the country, just did the Maui tournament, won that, and then oh my god, we lost to Northwestern again, the world's ending and it's all over, and Purdue's never going to win another game all year, and Zach E's going to it was a disaster. Twitter was such a disaster after the game, and I don't, and I get losing's not fun, especially when you're in the position, and it was kind of a shadow of last year, and I get that, but holy crap, people. Like, take a deep breath, like Carson Edwards with him in the GIF with the Harms, where he's just like, chill out, relax, take a deep breath, everything's fine. And they showed that against Iowa. The bounce back against Iowa has me feeling really good.
And the nonsense up against like Painter and some of the people saying that he got outcoached by Chris Collins and stuff like that was just like ignorant. Like, if you look at those 2 plays he drew up to tie the game, those were amazing plays.
And he's
amazing
a good coach.
draws. Yeah.
Did he draw those up, or did PJ draw those up? Because isn't PJ kind of in charge of the offense now at this point?
PJ's calling the offense. But
yeah.
And so when they said that, I thought that meant that he was like deciding what plays. But I think he is, by calling the offense, I think he is the one communicating the play is what that actually means.
So he's got the whiteboard and
so the play call comes from someone else. But
so Painter's the offensive coordinator. PJ's the guy with the
PJ's the artist, the whiteboard artist.
Yeah, he's the whiteboard. And no disrespect,
he literally
PJ,
draws it up.
Huge PJ fan, but I think literally draws it up. Yeah.
To add to what Dylan said there too about the undefeated thing, old school Big Ten fans, of course, know that the recipe to win a Big Ten basketball conference championship is win all your home games in conference, win half your road games in conference, and you should be in the mix at the end of the year. So that kind of implies that if you're playing a top half of the Big Ten on the road, it's going to be a tough game that you really shouldn't be expected to win. And I consider Northwestern not just a top half, but maybe a top 5 team in the conference.
They're great. They're a really good team. Boo Boo, he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I love saying his name too. I was watching the game at my mom's because I was helping her with the Christmas tree and all that. And she's like, wait, that kid's name is Boo Booey? And she couldn't stop saying it the whole night. It's fun to say. Shout out to Dad.
And that's where I think people have like some recency amnesia.
Yeah.
In that, like, this isn't the same Northwestern that won like 3 games in conference 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, this was they were 57th in KenPom going into the game. Like, they're a really good team.
Well-rounded.
Yeah. And also, too, if you guys want to check out, Frank and I have started doing this kind of pod on Sunday night where we talk about things outside of the Purdue realm, top 25, Big Ten power rankings, that kind of thing. One of the things I brought up was last week, the top 10 teams lost 9 games.
Yeah.
Right. So 8 of the top 10 teams lost a game last week, but yet everybody's saying Purdue should fire Painter. So that means 80% of the top 10 should be firing their coach. Like, come on now.
If Purdue fires Painter, who in the hell's going to replace him? That's why I don't get with these people when they're like fire Painter. Like, okay, fine. Who are they going to hire? Who's better than Painter right now?
And look at IU. Look at IU post Bobby Knight. Look at Louisville post
Yeah.
Petrino. When you fire,
I mean,
those
Urban
coaches that are
Meyer's
the
not
face
doing
of the
anything right
program-
now. He's always the coach that
Patino.
people go for.
Yeah, let's
Patino,
hire
yeah.
Herb.
You're thinking of Bobby
Patino. Yeah.
Petrino.
Louisville had Patino and Petrino.
I want to jump in here real quick because I'm not getting any. I got to fight my way in here to empathize with the fan base. It is extremely frustrating to beat some of the best teams in the country and then go to Chicago and play a middle of the pack Big Ten team. I'm going to say Northwestern is a middle of the pack. They are projected to go 10-10 in conference play. They're not even projected. They're like lower on the end of the Big Ten teams to make the tournament this year. They lost to Mississippi State, who is not a very good basketball team. So I understand people's frustrations this year or with that game. It's very frustrating to see your team do so well against such good teams, go to Northwestern, and then just fumble the bag. That's extremely frustrating. And I also want to know who is on Twitter saying that we were going to go undefeated this year. I've not seen anybody on Twitter being like, Purdue should have gone undefeated, blah, 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 blah. I've not seen that anywhere at all. And I just don't think that's a majority of the fan base. I think that's like a very small crowd. And okay, go ahead.
That's the implication of every loss is, oh, well, we shouldn't have lost this game. We're going to lose games. And I've said it from the start that Big Ten conference play, Chris Collins has seen us for the last 6 years, twice a year. He knows what Painter's going to do, and he knows how he's going to do it. Guys, that's why guys like Few and Duke and all these other teams we've played who don't see us don't know what we're going to do. But when you've got teams that, Tom Izzo's seen Matt Painter for the last 20 years. Like, he's going to know what Painter's plan is. I mean, shit, I know what Painter's plan is. I'm not a damn coach.
So what's the difference then between just because, I mean, they can watch film. So what's the difference between, like, if you can know what they're going to do, how is a team like Gonzaga or whoever not going to know what Painter's going to do?
Well, because they don't prepare for him every single year.
That, and you don't have a guy like Zach Edey because it is easy to say, hey, we're going to do this against Zach Edey when you've never seen him. But when you've got a team and a coach that has seen him so often for the last 3 years, that makes it a lot more difficult.
Well, that and coaches look at not just who you're playing the next week or the week after that. They look at the conference as a whole. Like we won't play Michigan for a few weeks, but I'm sure Painter has watched, not an entire game, but snippets of games of each conference opponent and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Right. I'm just saying, I understand why the fan base was upset. And I think it's ridiculous that people are, obviously, if you have people saying like fire Painter and all that stuff, like that's crazy. But like, I think it's okay to be upset after losing to Northwestern, who I'm going to say, and I will be gladfully wrong, but I think they're a middle of the pack Big Ten team. I don't think they're going to finish top of the top half. So I understand why people have a right to
be upset. You're right. Because like we're the best team.
We're supposed to be an elite team. We have the National Player of the Year, a guy who's averaging 27 points, 13 rebounds, and he had 35 points. Should have had 50. Could have had 50 if he would have hit a lot of shots down the stretch. Yeah. And we still lost, and we still had guards with 10+ points. So I understand why people are mad.
2 of their bigs were fouled out in overtime.
Well, there's more nuance to them being
you got points, David. I'm helping you out.
So I called Northwestern. I think they're a top 5 team in the Big Ten for one. But the second part of that is you can't just say, well, as a team, this is what they are, because Boo Buie is probably going to be an All-American, or at least in the discussion for an All-American guard. And when you have a guard like that, it doesn't matter who he's playing on a given night. If he's going off, they're going to have a good chance to win that game. They're probably going to win that game, especially when they're at home. And guard play, sports as a whole isn't consistent, right? Edey doesn't go off for 35 points every game, right? But same with Boo Buie. Boo Buie's not going to drop 30 plus every night, but if he's fired up, especially like a team like Purdue, right? Everybody's going to give us their best shot, right? They're going to camp out for our game. They're going to game plan for our game. They might ignore 2 or 3 other games, like in Mississippi State. They might not be able to spend as much time preparing for them, but they want to knock off Purdue. That's a program building, a recruiting bonus win. So they're going to spend way more time on us than we probably are on them.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to kind of expect some of the things that happen, especially on the road in conference and a team that has an all-American guard.
Yeah,
So-
I'm just saying I understand why people are upset about the
No,
loss.
for sure. I know
Yeah, I
And-
mean, no one wants to lose. Like, but I
Yeah.
think the like, and you're, I mean, you're right. No one's on Twitter saying like, oh, we were gonna go undefeated or anything like that. But I think actually, like, I should have saved some of these and we could have talked about them on here. But I saw things like, I'm sick and tired of dealing with this every single year. I'm done. Like, I
It's
can't.
just
I
because
can't.
Same
that,
Purdue
that
team,
burn,
same old
that
Purdue
burn
team.
from last year is just still right there. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it just is. Like, it's
Yeah,
a
it
very
is, yeah.
fresh wound. So it's just, and it's the guys that I know. Obviously, they've taken the offseason to improve and grow, and there's new players on this team. But there's also a ton of guys who were on that team last year. So I think that's why there's so much association with how this team plays on a game by game basis. It's going to be very critical because Purdue is supposed to be an elite team. So everybody's going to be looking at them with a giant magnifying glass and harping on them way more than anybody else. So that's
So
just
we
that
have
just
a-
comes with the territory. It's
we have a
just like
comment
how
here.
it's just how yeah, absolutely people need to settle down and not jump the ship. But it's just like obviously we don't have the national championships to back it up, but Purdue basketball is like the Alabama or Ohio State of college football. Like the fans will riot for
They're
losing
held,
one
held
game.
to a high standard. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely held to
The
a high
bar,
standard.
the bar is set high.
Painter
Yeah, but
has an
Alabama
elite
football
team.
can
He
still
sh-
lose games and make the 14 playoff, though, so that's fine.
That's
And-
But no,
and he-
Damon, you make really good points here. You really do, and that like Purdue's expectations are high. But just to like put some like yeah, you're right. Northwestern may be a middle of the pack Big Ten team, but as Russ said, Boo Buie. I mean, he's
so
elite.
Northwestern.
Northwestern-
Yeah, he's great.
he's elite. I mean, and Northwestern's a very experienced team, right? Ty Berry's a senior, Langborg's a senior. He's a transfer, but he's played in the Sweet 16 before. Barnheiser's a junior. I mean, Matthew Nicholson, their tallest player at 7 foot, who guarded Edie a lot of the night until he fouled out. He's a senior as well. So these guys have played a lot of basketball, and as we know in college basketball, seniority and experience matters a lot. But it's ultimately Northwestern got away from just running offense, and they just started saying, okay, we're going to let our best player go. And we're going to give the ball to Boo Buie, and we're going to get an isolation for him. And we think Boo Buie is better than the guy guarding him, and he's going to go. It's a very pro style approach to the game, kind of like we do with Zach Edey. And
Yeah.
it's and that's the type of team that we could end up facing in the tournament. But to address this comment here, we had a second. Cody said how I see it is it's better to lose one
absolutely
now
it
than
is.
later this year. I think that ultimately we're probably a better team because of this, because that was a nice. I mean, we saw a guy do the same thing against Kentucky this week. There was a guy who was taking terrible shots, fadeaway, contested jumpers in the paint, and all of them were going in. I mean, it just so a really experienced guard, who has been in college for 5 years, like Boo Buie has the ability to do that. And unfortunately, there's not much you can do about it. And we saw, we tried to hedge him, and he just passed it and found the open shooters. I mean, they shot 50% from 3. So it was just kind of a statistical outlier, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
think-
no one wants to lose, right? But I think that there was a bit of an extreme overreaction. It was interesting because I looked at the Kentucky Twitter after that Kentucky loss, and I was expecting to see the same thing. I was expecting to see fire the coach, this team's done, same thing every year. And it was interesting that a lot of the fans were just like, we gotta get this figured out, but good luck next game. We'll get this turned around. I was shocked because I'm just so immersed in this Purdue fan base now that I expect so much negativity. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we beat Iowa in the same fashion if we don't have that loss to Northwestern per se. But I think it was interesting to see the players after the game. None of them seemed angry. They all seemed level-headed and just ready to get to the next game.
I think the
So,
thing that upset me the most is the entire damn fan base ran around like their freaking hair was on fire. And relax, we're going to have an off game. We're going to have a bad game. That's my whole point behind it, is that like oh, here it goes again, this, that, and the other thing. Okay, I understand that we turned over the ball and that was a problem. I get that. But we basically shot almost the same from 3 and had half the turnovers, and at one point we're up 34 points against Iowa. And
Yeah.
I think Northwestern's a better team than Iowa. And
They're more well-rounded than Iowa. Iowa's
Yes.
all offense, no defense.
Right.
Northwestern's decent at both.
so what I'm trying to get at is that, like, you're going to have those off nights. It just is what it is. But the whole fan base just flipping out. I'm like, come on, man. We got to relax. Like, just chill out. It's not that big a deal. Like, and it's not that people were saying we were going to go undefeated, but like when we lose,
That's how they
people
acted.
people act like that's what we're going to do. And it's
Yeah.
like, nah, man, we weren't going to go undefeated. We're going to have a loss here and there. Shit, we might have 5 by the end of Big Ten play.
Well,
It
we
just
should
is what it is.
relish in the fact that people are still storming the court against just beating Purdue results in a court storm, and that's a great place to be. As
What
a
was that
program.
ED stat you had? Every away game, every away loss has been a.
I believe every true road loss he's experienced has resulted in a court storming in the last 3 seasons, because Rutgers, Maryland, twice at Northwestern. I have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure he
IU.
said that in a press conference. Like IU, he said that in a press conference last year. He's like, "No, I'm used to it now. People storm
Yeah.
the court when they beat us." So like, what a place to be. And like, and the only thing we don't have is the postseason success to show. But like, we are in a place now where beating Purdue at home in general results in a court storming. Do you know how many court stormings I've seen happen at Mackey in my lifetime, in person or on TV?
One,
wow, yeah.
0.
I've seen.
Wisconsin,
Didn't we?
Robbie's.
Oh, you're
Robbie's
right.
freshman
Okay,
year.
well,
Yeah.
okay, well, that was it. That was coming off of a few really bad seasons. So one time. And
Yeah.
I've seen two in Northwestern,
Yeah, I
2
don't remember
seasons in a
any of those.
row. Rutgers, we saw it against IU, a team that's won 5 championships. They shouldn't be storming the court for any win.
Little
I feel
I
brother
feel
got
like
all
Mackey Arena
excited.
also just makes it really hard to storm the court. There's like no good way to get down the.
That's true.
That's very true. Yeah, kind of a pit.
Yeah,
You're putting yourself on the line.
There's
right
been
there.
several attempts. You just don't see the fans that face plant off the
Right.
railing, and everybody goes, "No, I'm not trying that."
That's what they
And
don't
maybe-
do.
Hands away.
And maybe this is where I got a little bent too, was that when people were like, oh, this is the same thing over again, blah, 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 with this team. It's not. We're top 10 in defense. We're top 5 in offense. I can't
Yes.
remember the last time we've been top 20 in both, let alone top 10 in both.
Well, and for comparison, during Jaden Ivey's
Pepperidge
final
Farm remembers.
season, the year that we went to the Sweet 16 and lost to St. Peter's, we were like 92nd in defense that season.
Yeah, we had no
Um,
defense, dude. I mean,
yeah,
what was it?
Jay-
We played
Jaden Ivey's
Nichols and they
freshman
dropped
year
like
was-
84 points on us or something.
Yeah,
Nichols
it was
State or whatever
Nichols.
it was.
That was
Nichols.
the eye-opening game. Yeah. So
Yeah.
here we have a
Yeah.
comment here from Cody. Here's the thing, fellas. Northwestern found our weak points and they capitalized them. But how we came out against Iowa and basically said to the fan base, we're the same team that is going to fight for a damn win. Agreed.
I agree somewhat, but I think I talked to you, Frank, too, that it's not really a secret. It's not really people finding out our weak points. It's the same
It's just
recipe
basketball.
to beat any elite team. Is you've got to force turnovers, you got to take care of the ball, you got to hope we don't hit threes, and you got to shoot lights out from 3.
You have to make
that's-
it
that's-
dirty.
That's pretty much that's pretty much the recipe. And you got to foul the crap out of us to force those turnovers, and just hope they don't call everything. Like
Yeah,
teams
and I
know that
think
that's what
too-
you can do against us, but we just shoot the free throw so well, and we can actually hang on to the ball better than what people think. That's why we are able to still win so many games.
I think too that I think too a lot of maybe a lot of it, or maybe some of it, a good like reason that maybe it's so emotionally charged, the response is because the game ended very similarly to last year, and I think that just put a lot of people were like ready to just like put a bad taste in Northwestern's mouth, just like sock it to them and beat the crap out of them, which I'm sure the players were, the coaches wanted to do that as well, and I think just not getting that result, it was just like, damn it, it's back to it's a repeat of last year, and I think it's just because it technically ended kind of the same way it did last year. That game against we were number 1, fresh to number 1 or whatever it was, and lost, in kind of the same fashion, close nail biter where we just didn't pull it out at the end too. So I think all those things play into that. The spotlight that is on Purdue. Purdue is an elite team that just hasn't made that push yet in March. I don't think anybody can argue that they are not an elite team, and I think that's just where the frustration is the expectations are just sky high. And unfortunately, it's a game played by humans that are full of mistakes and error that and flawed. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect every game. So, stuff like that's going to happen. So,
And it
but
seems,
like you
it
guys
seems like
said,
we're the team that seems like Purdue's the team that everyone loves to hate now. I mean, it blew my mind to see the Northwestern fans and the players flipping off Edie and chanting DUI at Gillis.
I
And, like,
have
that kind of stuff.
to
Like,
I have to shout out the Northwestern fan. I think she's the girl that is part of Wild Chat on Big Banner. She said like this didn't age well, and it was literally just a score update stating that we were going into overtime. And it's like that aged perfectly fine. We definitely still went into overtime.
Hey, guess what?
So-
Score,
I
I
mean,
think it
score
was
is
like
age.
Ashley or something. It was just really funny. She's like, didn't age well. I was like, it was just a score update, but
Yeah.
well, I mean,
It's
but
nothing to be
they were riding high. They were riding high. They were on top of the world that night, and understandably so. They just beat Purdue. Everyone, yeah, who wouldn't be?
They still
right?
got to come
But,
to
like,
Mackey.
what a good place to be. Yeah,
I
what a
can't wait
good place
beat
to
the
be.
freaking dog shit.
But
I mean,
to bring up the second part of Cody's point, let's talk about Iowa. Yeah, what do we think about Iowa?
very nice.
What went
like it.
right? What went right? What went wrong? We can talk about Lance Jones. We can talk about him throwing the ball
Lance
off
Jones
of,
is that dude,
off
man.
of that guy's back.
I didn't
was
see
it,
that either until like
Sanford?
the
Yeah.
highlight came out the next day.
Dude,
Lance
Jones
Jones-
is a stud.
He is having
Like,
more
what an
fun right now
embarrassing
playing
thing.
college basketball than anybody on the team, than anybody
He
maybe
looks
in
like
Division
he's
One.
having a good time. Like,
Dude
that's
is
what I
just
like
having a
the most
blast,
about him.
man.
He's having
Yeah.
fun. I love it.
So, sorry, Frank. I think you talked before we went live that Purdue, you said shot 26% from three.
Mhm.
Against Iowa.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh.
Yes, yeah, 26.3.
Oh, 32. Well, and
I'm,
we were, I
I'm
think,
at 5 for 19, 26.3.
well, anyway, we talked. I think somebody mentioned like how it didn't feel like that, and I think it's because we did such a good job getting those offensive rebounds. So it wasn't like a miss and then change of possession, miss, change. It was like miss, rebound, dish out to somebody else, bang, it hit it in. So, yeah, it was a really fun game. Edie did a great job getting in position in the post. I hope that Perkins guy from Iowa, I hope he's got some eligibility left. Would love for him to come to Purdue next year. If he's got some eligibility, he looked fast and shifty and very good. So I'm probably going to, if I ever just catch Iowa on TV, I'll probably just watch him because he was just very good as a point guard. So, yeah, super fun game. We beat the shit out of him. So it was a fun time.
I mean, that we opened the second half, I think, with, or maybe not second half, but we scored on like 11 straight possessions or something like that.
16.
16
It
straight
was-
possessions.
So from the end of the second half or the end of the first half into the second half, there was 16.
And during that
and-
run, we had a points per possession at like 2.17.
Yeah, Russ,
Like-
I'm seeing 8 for 25 from 3. Are we looking at this? Are we looking at the same game?
Yeah, I just put in our private chat that I was looking at the
Stats
Northwestern
war.
stats still. That's my
That's
fault.
like
Stats
what-
fight.
I'm sitting here like, okay, who's got it? Who's got it
Stat
wrong?
fight,
Okay,
stat
sorry
fight.
about that.
But still, you're
good.
you're
Nerd
shooting
fight.
32. You're still shooting 32%. You only out rebound Iowa by what, 8? And
What were the total rebounds? Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
only 8. God, it felt like a lot more than that.
I know. Well, they start.
Well,
I think
and
some of that
remember
was
the second
garbage
half
time.
of the second half of the second half, we were playing
A
no
lot
one
of
really
like,
from our starting lineup.
That's
was
what I
playing,
was going to
so, like,
say. You know,
Yeah.
Colvin was like 0 for 4 from 3.
yeah,
Yeah, we had Morton was 0 for 4 from the field.
yeah.
First was 1 for 3. Yeah, you look at our starters. Edie was 9 for 10 from the field, 7 of 9 from the free throw line. Lance Jones was 7 of 11 from the field. Fletch was 5 of 10. TKR 5 and 9. Like, so yeah, our starters shot very, very well.
But to have a 34-point lead at one point in that game
Yeah.
is mind-boggling against one of the best offenses in college basketball when it comes to points per game, and 2, against just any Big Ten opponent. I mean, we talked about the other day after the or I brought it up the other day after the Northwestern loss, that it's just kind of unheard of to see really big double-digit wins against conference opponents, again, because of familiarity. And to have it get to that point, it was really mind-boggling to me. And that's what I think the part I was the most impressed with was just what we were able to do. We pretty much could do whatever we wanted that entire game.
Well, we took care of the ball too. I mean, and that was Purdue's best turnover game in terms of not turning the ball over. We had the
What,
lowest
8?
turnover percentage So we had 10% turnover percentage in that game. So for context, versus Marquette, we had 19% turnover percentage. Northwestern was 18, so that wasn't even our worst game. First game of the season against Stanford, 17% turnover percentage. Last night against Iowa, 10. So really, that was our second best was against.
You know what
Murray
I think
State
is
with 11.
the craziest stat of this game is Iowa shot more free throws than Purdue did. They shot 17, Purdue only shot 16. That's insane. So
Wow.
far this year, just the way that things have played out. And that shows you how well that they took care of the ball on the offensive side. They didn't have to go to the foul. I mean, and Edey also got out of the game super early. He got those 25 points very quickly. Very quickly.
And Dylan, I'm going to let you read this comment here out loud.
What was it? I thought if the Boilers were going to win
Oh.
by 1 billion because it felt like Iowa didn't get off the bus.
There we go.
See, my prediction would have been right, which, I mean,
Yeah, we didn't have
we all know
official
I mean that
predictions
in
for
the
that
most
game.
serious way
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, that well, one thing I want to talk about is the 3 position. So Fletch has been starting at the 3. And then we've been kind of rotating Morton, Colvin, Heidi in there as well. But Colvin played 2 minutes against Northwestern. And Heidi played 18. So do we feel like as a group, and I guess we don't have to agree as a group, but does it seem like Heidi is excelling over Miles Colvin
Yes.
right now?
He's
I
got a
think so
full
too,
year in the
especially
program.
defensively.
Exactly. He's got a full year of off season and being redshirted last year too. So yeah.
Yeah.
And keep in mind too that Miles Colvin didn't play play like some big travel ball team, did he? He only just did high school throughout his high school career, right? He didn't do a lot of travel ball. Is that correct?
I remember seeing him a lot
I
of
think he
pro-am
did do
tournaments. I
a-
remember seeing some of that stuff.
Oh. I got you. I was gonna say never mind. I was gonna say maybe he just didn't have that, he doesn't have that experience yet. But I've liked Miles Colvin from the minutes I've seen him have. I've enjoyed it, but
Yeah,
he's
and-
Heidi's for the year.
I feel like the game against Iowa, his shot looked weird. I don't know, like his
I noticed
motion
that
just
too.
looked choppy. I hope he's not trying to change something because it's obviously a proven body of
You
work.
can't
To-
change
to-
things.
To me,
during
just
the
to
season.
oversimplify it, it looked like he was just forcing it. Like he wasn't shooting in rhythm. It was like
Mhm.
coach told him go in and get a few shots up, and so he just was chucking them up there instead of actually trying to get set, trying to get a rhythm shot off.
Yeah.
He was just trying to get some shots out, and that's not the best way to get back into a rhythm or to get something started for sure.
And on the subject of that position, there's another guy who looked like he was trying to find his shot last night, and that was Ethan Morton. I don't know if any of you all saw the press conference. He seemed kind of down on himself, because he kind of alluded to the fact that he's always known that if it's needed he can score, but he went 0 for 4 last night. He had kind of just above a break 3. He had a 3 on the wing, a 3 in the corner, and then basically one right at the restricted circle that should have gone in that he missed. What do we think about Ethan Morton so far?
It's just a lot different than what the ideas were, I think, for us as a group and maybe some of the fan base. And I know the fan base is pretty split on what he should be doing as far as playing wise. But I think what he's done so far this year is pretty different than I think what we as a group have talked about and expected. There was talks of him running the point guard. He's an experienced point guard. That's not happening. So it's just very different than what I think we expected, or what I've heard a lot in this group talk about with Ethan.
Yeah, I mean he has run some point this season, but yeah, definitely not as much as what we thought. And some numbers here, courtesy of cbbanalytics.com. Fantastic outfit here, but I'm not the biggest fan of on-off numbers by any means. But when you look at Purdue's offensive rating, it goes down 5.8 when he's on the floor. When you look at Purdue's defensive rating, it goes up 6.6 when he's on the floor. And so for context, you want defensive rating to be low. It's how many points you allow per 100 possessions. So I'm surprised really to see the defensive aspect, but there's also a lot of context missing there, and that who's he on the floor with? Is he on the floor with Lance Jones a lot? Is he on the floor with Edey a lot? I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. My instincts tell me no. But he brings the intangibles. He was rebounding hard last night. He was rebounding super hard. He had some insane assists, especially in transition. But like I'm still an Ethan Morton fan. I know you, like you said, Damon, the fan base is kind of split, but I think probably the most interesting thing is he's only played 100 minutes this season.
Oh,
And
wow.
Miles Colvin's played 95. And so let's see, where's Cam Heidi at on the season? Cam Heidi's at 116. So those three guys are basically splitting even time. So like one guy's going to get 5 minutes one night and then 15 or 20 minutes the next, and and that's how it's going to be. But what a good scenario that Purdue's in to have a guy who has started over 30 games in his career coming off the bench and sometimes playing 5 minutes in one night. That's just a crazy thing.
But Ethan's
Also
also
no-
experienced enough that he's going to get it figured out.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Is there any update on Gillis's injury?
I think he just rolled his ankle. I think I saw him Boiler in the stands, or somebody said that he just rolled his ankle. He's fine,
Good. Okay.
but I
May
don't
my
know.
heart skip a beat. So viewer comment here, was
Yeah.
it just me or did Colvin look everywhere on his shots like he wasn't set for any of the shots? And Morton doesn't look like the same Morton from last year. I think so. Yeah. First thing on that, Russ, you take it.
Oh no, I was just going to talk about Morton. I was going to add some on him.
Okay. Well,
you know, if you-
I'll address the Colvin piece. It did look like he wasn't playing in rhythm, as we said, and he was definitely looking for his own shot. And maybe that was a coaching thing. Maybe Painter said, "Hey, we got a 30-point lead. Go in there and knock down some shots." That doesn't seem like something Painter would do, but who knows? But Russ, what were you going to add about Morton?
Yeah, so Braden is playing a ton of minutes too. You got to remember that. So like Northwestern, he played 41 of 45 minutes. So you're not going to see whoever is playing backup point. You're not going to see them playing a whole lot of a point guard. And I'd also be interested to see. I want to get into some of the CBB analytics stuff and see where Morton is playing throughout the game, because I feel like he's getting pushed all over the place. Like there's times where he is running the point for 4 or 5 minutes a game, and then he might be our 2 guy for 4 or 5 minutes a game, and then he might even be running some 4 or some 3. Like so if he's all over the place and not playing one specific regular role and just being a Swiss Army guy, the stats aren't going to necessarily reflect the contribution he's bringing to the team and what he's doing and who he's playing with. Like you said, like if he's playing with not starters anymore, his numbers are going to look worse than what they did his freshman year or sophomore year when he was playing more with the starters in the first team than he is now.
Yeah, and I think that I had a thought on Morton and it just went in one ear out the other. I think it's hard too to just judge Morton just because he is playing limited. He's just playing less minutes. Like it's hard to get into a rhythm when you're not playing very long, and maybe in the back of your head you know that you're not going to be out there very long. So maybe that's playing into that as well. I would like to know why he's not playing more at like the point guard. Is there like with Braden playing 41 minutes a game or whatever he's averaging right now? Is there a reason for that? Is that like a lack of faith in the next man up in that position, or what would be what's the reason for that?
I think just Braden and Fletch and Edey are guys that you want in there for 30 to 35 minutes of the game because they're some of the best players in the Big Ten in the country. So I don't think it's a discount on other guys. Like Painter's always said too, that he has to explain to guys that he's not really taking you out of the game. He's putting somebody else back in the game. So the minutes that you don't get aren't necessarily a reflection of the quality of the player you are. It's just we've got to get these other guys. We have a plethora of riches. Like we have all these guys that have got to get the minutes. And if Braden and Fletch are going to give us a better chance to win, we want them on the floor more often. Also, to the Morton point and to playing point more and how he's playing, he had 5 assists on Monday night, where he actually
Let's
played
go.
20 plus minutes. So, I think it'd be interesting to see what his assist percentage is when he's playing as the point guard compared to what Braden is. I'm sure it's not as good as Braden, but I'm sure it's better than what people are kind of saying he is right now.
Yeah, Braden's a very good player. It's hard to argue reason to take him out for very long. So yeah, that makes sense. But we do play Alabama on Saturday in Canada, which will be a homecoming for
Canada. Oh,
Nope.
for Zach Edey.
Oh, say, can you?
shout out to all the Canadians. It's in Toronto, isn't it?
Yeah, it is in Toronto. It's in his hometown. Actually, that just reminded me, Dylan. When I recently went to Dallas and went to the Dallas Mavericks game. They played the Toronto Raptors. They did "O Canada" first, and then the Star Spangled Banner because the Toronto Raptors were playing.
Yeah, you saved the
Which
best for last.
Well, I just thought that was an interesting decision in Texas of all states.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
Oh, it was
in
As a
Texas.
guy,
If there's one state where that might get a questionable reaction, it's probably Texas.
No, I think it's
know-
understood throughout the NBA because of the
Yeah,
corona
yeah. I
thing.
mean, it was good. There was no negative reaction
Yeah.
at all. But when they
As a guy
started
who's-
singing "Oh Canada," I was like, oh, okay, all right.
as a guy
I
who spent
do-
4 years in hockey, I know "O Canada" by heart.
Gross.
There you go.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Go.
I only had to listen to it. See, there's 70 games in it or 60 games in a season for. I don't know math. I had to listen to it a lot. So,
You're still
Gross.
not singing it though. That's the crazy part.
well, I'm not gonna. No one wants to hear that.
Oh,
Please
People-
don't.
Canada.
People's ears. will
But
start
I did
bleeding.
My
before.
home and
Before I know I
native
moved this on
land.
talking about Alabama, but before that, I thought this was funny. I posted this poll out during the game. I think it was right after the first half on Monday. Yeah, last night. And I said 45-24 after the first half. What stood out to you? Shooting, rebounding, defense, or Fran McCaffrey? And Fran McCaffrey won that vote, 31.9%.
I do
Uh,
have to say that might be a record for a technical for him.
That was very quick.
Jamie,
Into the
What a
game.
almost
dumb, what a
drowned.
dumb thing to get a technical over to.
Yeah.
What a
It
dumb
was
guy.
it was 8 minutes into the game and it was
Dummy.
a possession call. I mean, it
Yeah.
just like I
My
don't know.
tweet-
And like we didn't have a huge lead or anything at that point. It just seemed like
But
a
that's
really
the type
dumb
of
time
thing
to
you
get a technical.
that's a catalyst.
Well, do we remember? Was it last season when Fran stepped out in like midcourt and just stared at a referee for?
Yeah,
like,
maybe
a
that's
solid
why
minute?
we shot less free throws, Damon. Like they were afraid of Fran Con
Right,
and how bad it
stare
could get
down.
to their.
My
the
tweet
safety
of
of Mac
him.
Arena, we got those engineers out there, but I don't know if they can beat FranCon.
Oh no,
The
Nick.
Tuesday Boiler Brain Trust. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
See, Nick
It's very
knows what
kind.
he's talking about.
Frank's carrying that brain trust, but yeah, we're out here. But yeah, I
So,
just thought that was funny.
Alabama.
Hey, Nick, who's your favorite?
Yeah, Nick, answer that
Yeah,
for us.
Nick.
Yeah, tell us that.
See, I mean, one thing or two things come to mind when I think about Alabama. I think about speed, and I think about like spreading you out. And like Alabama teams are really good at doing both of those things. So, in terms of possession length, they are third in the country right now, 13.8 seconds per possession right now, which is
That's
insane.
kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is. And so in terms of fast break points per game, they're averaging 18.2 fast break points per game this season, which is in the 98th percentile. So that's also something that
How's our fast
me
break
concerned.
defense?
Purdue's
feel like-
Purdue's transition defense has been actually better.
I was going to
this
say,
season,
I feel like
yeah.
it's been a lot better. It seems like we've put more of a focus on locking up the ball and then flowing in behind it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's been for anyone who doesn't know, it's been kind of like an not talked about Achilles heel of Purdue the last few seasons.
Not
has
the
been
press.
transition defense.
But the
Not the press,
transition
yeah.
defense.
Yeah, transition defense has been really bad, and like some teams look to really kind of get out and exploit that for that reason. But yeah, so that's like the main thing that sticks out when you look at Alabama on paper is that 18.2 fast break points per game is scary, and so compare that to Purdue, we're averaging 6.6 fast break points per game, so 20%. So 1 out of 5 shots.
Gotta let the big man
come
get
in
down the
fast
court.
break. Yeah, so
I'm guessing
you know,
their low post like points in the paint's probably not very high.
Nick, this is a family program. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
watch the language in the comments.
Nick has a
please.
comment here. It says, "Boys." I'll skip.
Holy
the next couple
shit.
words. Boys, holy shit! It looked like we finally, after decades, appeared how to break the Iowa press, and we did. I mean, and not only like did we break it, we broke it easily too, because
But
like
we've
last
also
season,
been able to break the press for years.
yeah, but like last season,
Okay.
it didn't affect us early, but as the game went on and on and on and on, it started to get into us a little bit more, but it never seemed to do anything more than just slightly inconvenience us last night.
So
This
I
guy
guess
sucks.
my thing with the press is like, yeah, we did a great job breaking the press. Robbie Hummel highlighted that very much during the game. But I will say, like, yes, there was a press, but like and maybe it's just because they were breaking it so well, but it didn't look like it was like much of an intense press, if that makes sense. Like it looked like
No,
it was
they
a press,
weren't-
but
they
it was
weren't
like
trapping.
it was like the definition of a press. Like it was like, oh, yep, that fills that box, but
It
it,
was a
wasn't like
token
they were
press.
like, yeah.
Token press, yeah.
That's what it looked like
No,
to me.
you-
They did a
you're
great
right.
job breaking the token press, but I would like to see like a balls to the wall, and I'm sure we're gonna see that this year.
But
type of
also at the
press
same
things.
time, I wonder if they were waiting for us to put it in a bad spot, and then they were going to trap down on it. Like they were
Yeah, I
just
mean-
kind of there until we got stuck in a corner and then went nuts.
a lot of teams will show that kind of token press until, Chris, what you just said, so you get in a bad spot, and that's when they attack. So, but like it was like they were playing volleyball out there. Like you'd see Braden inbound it to Lance Jones, who would like just tip it right over to Fletcher Lawyer, who would just tip it right back. I mean, it was too easy. But I'm trying to see.
Who's working the comments right now?
see.
What the hell?
Yeah,
What?
I don't know what's
Who?
going on.
Who would do
Yeah.
such a thing?
So
God,
comment
bro.
here:
Dylan-
can Bama speed hurt them in the later stages of the game? Does that play in favor of the Boilers? Well, one thing that Purdue has going for them right now in this game is their depth. Right, that's a huge thing that Purdue has going for. So that's one thing that with the speed and the pace that Alabama likes to play at, they're going to tire themselves out. That being said, they are rotating. Who are they? How many are they rotating?
Do you think we see
One,
more
two-
Lance Jones at the 2 and Cam Heide at the 3, and Fletcher Lawyer maybe get a reduction in minutes, just because of the speed?
Yeah, I mean, there are all sorts of things. I think this is a game where we might see a lot more Caleb First for that reason.
Okay.
Not that TKR is slow by any means, but he doesn't have the same kind of pop that Caleb First has. But they're rotating 10 guys just like we are. So sitting here looking at it, but they've returned Mark Sears. We know what he can do. He's shooting 50% from 3 this season, which is terrifying. 144 offensive rating, which is pretty crazy. And then they bring in, I believe he's a transfer, Aaron Estrada from Hofstra, who is playing out of his mind. He's shooting 44% from 3, 6'3" guard, super high, 20% assist rate, 18% turnover rate. So he's doing well, taking care of the ball. But really, like the thing that sticks out is Nick Pringle. Don't really know what's going on with him, but he has been suspended from the team for the rest of the season for conduct detrimental to the team.
Would you
And
say
he
that
got
put a
an
chip
NIL
on his shoulder, Nick Pringle? Do you think
Oh,
he has a
nailed
chip
it.
on his shoulder
Yeah.
from that?
Nailed it.
So Damon,
I'm here every week, guys.
according to
Are you
Synergy,
that?
Iowa pressed Purdue 22 times last night, to
Really?
varying degrees. Yeah, but like it's
Okay.
like a lot of those they just kind of showed the bodies, waiting for us to do something, and then we're gonna attack if they got in position, but they never really got in position. There were a couple where they tried to trap at half court, and Braden.
But
wasn't
also
having
maybe
any of
that's
it.
a kudos to like Purdue's improvement on that. They're like, okay, these guys are going to break this if we try to go full. Do we want to risk just giving Zach Edey an easy dunk at the basket, every single time, or do we just play like a light press? So maybe that's a kudos to Purdue's improvement on that as well. It's hard to, I guess, unless you ask Fran McCaffrey why they didn't press
Yeah.
harder.
But I mean,
And that's the
pressing on
thing
a
is-
third of possessions is pretty impressive since we had 69 of them.
And that's the thing about last year's team is that Purdue had a higher. If you press Purdue, there was a higher chance that they scored than if you picked them up in the half court, which is a crazy stat. So I don't
That
know
is
if that was
wild.
something to do with looking at our numbers from last season or whatnot. But just a couple other interesting numbers here about Alabama. They're currently second in KenPom in offense, but in defense they are 75th. So their defense is not fantastic. Again, like I said, they're super
Would you
fast.
say their offense was?
Second. So
Okay, so
they
they're
are
like
they are
a
a
2021 Purdue right now. Is that what they're?
or just a clone of a better version of the team we saw last night, a better version
Okay.
of Iowa. So a
Yeah.
faster version of Iowa who's shooting the ball better and taking care of the ball better. I mean, so in terms of turnover percentage, they're 16.1, which is pretty good. But they are really good at spreading the floor on offense. They practice really deep threes, so they're really good at taking really deep threes. I wonder if I can figure out what their percentage shooting is on deep threes, but they
I believe
practice
Lance
where
Jones didn't. I can't
yeah,
believe
I'm
Lance Jones
I'm
didn't,
talking.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm talking about like Lance Jones level deep threes. It's something that they practice in order to really spread their opponents out. So in terms of efficiency on deep threes, where are they at this season? I'm gonna figure it out. So field goal percentage on deep threes. They are 40% on deep threes this season as a team. And deep threes, meaning, let's see, what's the actual distance? More than 25 feet from the rim. And they've taken 41 of them this season. So they really, really like to spread, and so they practice in a way that if you hit a deep three beyond a certain, they have like a 4-point line on their court. So if you hit a shot beyond that in practice, it counts for 4 points. It's something that the Toronto Raptors do in practice as well, and it's something that they do a lot of. So about 9% of their shots are these deep threes, so to speak. 34% of their shots are normal threes. Again, great stats provided by cbbanalytics.com. But yeah, so that's something that scares me, is that, you know, you have these guards that are just coming down the court really fast, chucking up these deep threes, Lance Jones style, and they're going in. So that's not I don't really know how you guard that. So we just have to hope that we play with Nike balls, and that you know, Bama just gets cold. But ultimately, this is going to be an exciting game. It's going to be a probably a high scoring game, probably a fast game. Purdue's picked up the pace well this season, but yeah, it's a game that
I'm very excited just to see the atmosphere for Edey in his hometown.
Well, I think Alabama has a player from Canada too, or Toronto.
Yeah, he's not important. He's not
Did he
National
transfer, I
Player of the
thought?
Year.
I thought he
Oh, did he?
transferred.
Oh, I don't know. I just remember that here being like a storyline in the offseason. But yeah, that is going to be cool to see.
Yeah, and so in terms of their record, you know, they did lose to Ohio State in what was an extremely high scoring and thrilling game. They lost 92-81. They do have a win over 45th KenPom ranked Oregon, where they won 99-91. And they recently just lost to Clemson 85-77. And Clemson just shot the lights out of off the ball in that game. That was such a fun game to watch. So they do have a couple respectable losses, and, you know, like I said, their best wins over KenPom 45th ranked Oregon. But I think this is a game that comes down. Go ahead, Russ.
I was say big difference is Ohio State's ranked 59th in defense, and we're top 10. So I think this could look a lot like the Iowa game, where if they don't get hot early, it could be, Edey homecoming, go off for 40.
Yeah, and that also makes me think this might be a Cam Heide game too, because he has the speed, he has the quickness, and he can at least get a hand in someone's face if they do try to take these shots in transition like they've done this season so far. Interesting viewer comment here. Why do Alabama fans find love at family reunions? I don't know.
I do want to see some daily
Nick is not from
documentary
Alabama.
of
I don't know.
Alabama fans that traveled to Canada for
thought
this
he
game,
was.
because it's got to be such a culture shock for Canadians to see all those mullets walk in, and be like, what is going on here? Why are they wearing jorts in the middle
Oh,
of
what
winter?
First of all, you
what-
think Alabama fans are going to cross the border? That's a bold assumption there.
Stop it.
They ain't want to leave.
But
the
I do
United
see,
States.
and I don't know how much you can put into ESPN analytics. I don't know what all goes into that, but they do have us at a 69.3% chance of winning that game.
Nice.
Yeah,
that-
KenPom also
Nice.
has us
Better
at
than number
69.
one.
Yeah, nice.
By the way, I was just looking
KenPom.
up KenPom's at their website. I was trying to look up Northwestern's defense rating, but their website is so dude, it looks like it was made in 2002, and then he just never tried to update it. It's very plain Jane, very old school looking. Anyway,
So you
go
want to
ahead.
know Northwestern's defensive rating in KenPom?
Yes.
80th in KenPom. So they allow
So if
adjusted-
Ohio State's is 45th, and they gave up how many points to Alabama? 90 or 81, and Northwestern's is what'd you say?
Northwestern is 80th in defense.
Okay. That's not. The tracks aren't crossing the way I thought they were. Never mind.
No, I don't know what Southern Indiana
Damon,
math you're
good
trying to
reference.
do there, brother, but it is not mathing.
Sorry, I'm too close to Bloomington. My brain's frying. over here.
That happened.
Cody says it's going to be a sea of black and gold in Canada. I agree. And
I
this
agree.
I actually thought about going.
Well, it's like
going to
a-
this game.
Like a 10-hour drive?
Purdue fans have traveled really well. I mean, you look at the Hawaii game. and
Oh,
the
yeah.
Kentucky-
First
It
of
was
all,
awesome.
hold on a second. So Frank's going to drive to Canada, but he couldn't even make it to Ross-Ade this year. Are you kidding me?
I was going to
Sorry.
fly to Canada. Yeah.
Well,
I
here's
was
the
gonna
thing.
fly to
Frank
Canada.
is now
You
Anthony
probably fly to
Bourdain.
Ross-Ade. You probably know somebody.
Frank has a private jet. This is what the people don't know: is Frank's rich as shit and has a private jet and can fly out wherever, whenever. people don't realize that Frank is a multimillionaire in the analytics world.
Says the dude that owns like 15 horses and 20 businesses. Like,
No,
Yeah.
I don't own
God.
nothing. I'm some scrub.
Dylan's trying to take the heat off of himself.
If
Yeah,
I had a
take-
private jet, I'd
focus
post
the
about it
Boys,
literally
boys,
all the
from
time.
my house, it's an 8-hour drive.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably closer.
No, I
for
was-
me,
So
though.
it's like
gonna
a Virginia
fly,
Tech
but
drive again. Let's go.
I was gonna fly, but I've taken enough trips this year, so I'm
I
done.
wonder if
taking
I just
drags.
quit my
Uh.
job this weekend.
Well, then the city would go to hell, wouldn't
The city of
Yeah,
West
it's all right
Lafayette would
there.
never recover.
it? What's the
But,
screen?
Oh, this podcast has gone off the rails.
Well, that's what we're known
Ooh.
for. It's kind of our thing.
Dylan. Most lucrative thing Dylan owns is the Coonsville
You're
Pro
damn
Painters.
right, Nick.
Comment from
I
the
just
top
wanna-
ropes.
Even
just
though
wanna
even
check
though they ain't
which-
worth it. Damn.
yeah, I was gonna say, just so everybody knows, they're not even gonna make the playoffs. So
Just so
I'm-
everyone
shout out to
knows,
my team though. I haven't touched them at all this year, and they're not going to finish
Hey, yo!
last, so that's pretty cool. So
I
way
kinda
not
gave up.
finish that last. I think I won a game this past weekend too, which is crazy. And I
The
have like half the
Achilles-
Dallas Cowboys roster on my team.
the
I didn't
Achilles
even
is
do that on
really
purpose.
taking out the pro painters.
You hate to see it.
Russ,
Yeah.
off the top of your head, do we have Alabama ranked in our top 25? Do you remember?
Yeah, they're now number 5.
I believe we dropped them out, but I'll check on that real quick. Give me 2
I
seconds.
thought
Wow.
I thought so too. But Alabama, just looking at their schedule, they have a gauntlet
One
coming up. They have
number,
Purdue,
boys.
Creighton, and Arizona. They have Ken Palm number 2, number 5,
damn.
number 3.
Purdue also has
Three.
a freaking gauntlet coming up.
Yeah, we have them at
Everyone
19
has a
still.
gauntlet.
We've got them in there.
Everyone's got a gauntlet. Yeah, Purdue plays Alabama and then Arizona.
They play
we
Arizona,
get-
and then we play Jacksonville. You guys.
Yeah.
So let's
I'm
not
going
lose
to
the eye on the
the-
prize.
I'm going to the Jacksonville game, I think.
The
The one on the
Jaguars?
21st.
Oh, you got
Yeah.
the beach house.
Trevor
down there?
Lawrence might not play for that game. He's hurt. So
Hey, can
You
we
are
talk
such
about
a
how
clown shoe.
that meme I sent in the
Thank you.
group chat where it's like all the golf carts in Florida and they couldn't come up with one for Trevor Lawrence to get off the damn.
Hey, you know
field.
what? Michigan was mad at us for however many years it was ago because of
Oh,
our medical
Harbaugh.
facilities. At least we probably have a golf cart at Ross 8
Somewhere.
Stadium. All right, you know.
We got a little train we could haul you in.
So Nick Burris comment here: Purdue is going to win by
I like
20
Nick.
and then beat
Let's go.
Arizona by 8 to 10. Yeah, I think it's a good time for score
Attaboy, Nick.
predictions here. So
Yeah.
we can do margin of victory or we can do final score. But I think final score is fun because like
This
this
is my
is a
time
team
to
that just
shine.
scores super quick, right? So they're just going to be putting up points left and right. Our next two opponents have that in common. Actually, Arizona does the same thing. Spoiler alert, but
I will go
I'll
first.
start. Okay.
Ooh.
Or not.
We got a
I'll go
little
F
Who will?
myself.
Here,
Fight,
boys.
fight.
No, I'll start because I said it first. I'm gonna
Ooh.
go.
We said it at the same
I'm
time,
gonna
you
go.
four-eyed nerd.
Watch replay. Watch the tape.
I'm gonna go Purdue 80, Alabama 77.
As he's looking
That's my
at college
prediction.
basketball analytics right now.
No, just looking at the Google Doc here where we talk about
Yeah.
what we're gonna talk about. That's all. Yeah. That's my prediction.
Dylan?
We're just gonna go clockwise. Dylan.
I'm gonna do Purdue 75.
Oh,
Alabama
is this a
whoa,
big score
whoa,
prediction?
whoa!
69.
Wait a second. What is going on here?
Yeah, you know I'm
You
feeling
sick?
a little mature today, so I gave an actual score. Just kidding. Boilers by 1 billion.
I knew it. I knew he wasn't coming. So we have a viewer comment 78-63.
That was like Pat
Purdue.
McAfee level swerve right there.
So
Dude,
Nick's
that
Nick's
Clemson
Nick's
and
predicting that
Georgia
our defense shows up because what does Alabama average on a per
94 game, I think.
94 per
Fuck.
game. And so what
love
was
how now
Iowa
I'm
like
so dumb.
97?
I was
Yeah,
at 90. Yeah, I
period.
was at 92. So
Yeah.
as well.
Could happen.
So I love this is the best right here. Viewer comment here. Boilers by a damn billion, but realistically, Boilers 75, Rednecks 59. I like that. I like these defensive predictions that Purdue's defense shows up.
It's
And
also
again, I'd
like
love to know what kind of balls we're playing with.
even if I wanted to be serious, I can't now. Even if
Balls.
I want to give a
Said
legitimate
balls.
Yeah,
score
stick to the
prediction,
bit.
I can't.
Yeah, I said balls earlier, and Dylan nor Chris left, so I'm really just proud of you guys. That's
Well, no, when you said balls to the wall, I laughed inside. I grinned. I was looking at Chris. Chris was
that's
looking at me.
progress, though. That's progress.
Maturity, people.
Oh,
Maturity.
stand by.
Yeah.
We'll screw it up next week.
Has everybody else
Yeah.
given their scores? Is it on me yet? What's going on here?
Nope,
It's,
no one cares.
uh,
Ref.
Damon.
No one
It's
cares.
Damon.
Damon's up next.
Let's
oldest
see
goes
here.
last.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. It's honestly, it's whatever team. What was that stat like last year? The reports like whatever team reaches 70 first is gonna win the game. Is that like the
I
thing for
don't know.
Purdue? I remember that being a thing like last year, a couple years ago. Anyway, I'm gonna say we're gonna go Purdue 73, Alabama 66.
Another
Russell?
defensive.
That would be me.
Oh,
Clockwise,
Chris?
dumbass.
Sorry, I don't know things.
Purdue 92,
Ooh,
Damn.
Alabama 69.
nice.
You
So
got to be
just-
shitting me, Chris. I'm literally
Just
in my
for
brain.
reference,
I was about to say
Alab-
92-71.
Alabama leads the country in points per game at 94. And then
Oh, too
we got
bad this game's
predictions
in
of the
Canada,
50s,
baby. Let's go
60s.
Boilers!
Yeah.
Nick-
Here's a real question. Where can I get the Blitzboard or Sweet Boiler Express podcast t-shirt? In terms of a Boiler Express podcast t-shirt, that's a question that Dylan's going to have to answer.
Yeah,
In terms
yeah,
of
he
Blitzboard,
hoards them
Cincy
himself.
I literally went to my
Blitzboards.com.
local mall and had it done. Like it, anybody
Well,
can do it.
strike
a
I mean,
deal
if
with
we
them, come
fans
on,
want to get
man.
a T-shirt
We might have to work on some merch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for both people that want it. No.
Nick, we can send you the logo as a file, and you can go
Do
get
it
down
yourself,
at
Nick.
the mall.
Do
That's
it
what we're
yourself, you
saying.
fucking nerd.
I saw
For
I saw
$5,
some
we'll send you the
pictures of
logo.
I saw some pictures of Tippecanoe Mall. The place is a
It's
ghost
not good.
town. Didn't realize that. That was kind of
So
sad to see.
most malls are the Dayton Mall in my area. Oh my God, it's the wild, wild west out in those streets. Any
All right,
mall's
Russ, what's your prediction?
That's how I was trying to get there, but Dylan's talking about malls or whatever.
Hey,
Balls?
but
Russ, please.
I'll tighten it up a little bit
It's
compared to
fine.
Chris. So I can put a little distance between us. But I'm in the same ballpark. I'm going to say 88-73 Purdue, but I'm also going to say it's similar to Iowa in that we might get up over 20 or more, and then we start pulling some dudes. And because they can hit the long ball, they'll end up tightening that spread, from maybe mid-20s down to about, the teens or so.
Okay.
I like
it.
it.
All right.
Rock on. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here for the night, folks. We actually are finishing around the hour mark, so kudos
Weird.
to everybody.
Hey,
Way
look
to
at
pull
us,
it
huh?
together. Yeah.
Well, when we're not
doing the
trying to
darn
cover
thing.
2 sports at a time, I think it works out very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
let's talk
speaking
transfer
of another
portal. We haven't
sport-
talked about transfer portal.
No, that's another
Yeah.
day, Frank.
Well, I was going to mention 2 other sports things. One, Purdue volleyball in the Sweet 16. So
Yes.
awesome for them.
Heck yes.
2, shout out Aiden O'Connell getting another W this last weekend. Nice hat there, Dylan. Yep. Out there,
That's for AOC and our man Stu.
Yeah, go check out our buddy
Shout out.
Stu and his Raiders pods. If you're
Oh, and then
into
the hockey
some
team
NFL
killed
stuff.
Illinois. By the way,
Nice.
so shout out to the hockey
Well,
boys.
Beat them in
I-
overtime by a goal. but
I'm
yeah.
friends with them. I sent them a text message and I said, "Hell of a win, boys," and they're like, "Thank you." And I said, "You're welcome."
Wrestling is taking
Wrestling.
off here.
Oh yeah,
soon.
CM Punk returned to the WWE. That's still
No, like
I-
actual
honestly, I think-
wrestling, not the
I think-
fake crap.
I think that's why
Whoa.
Northwestern won. Their Chicago-based team. CM Punk's from Chicago. It happened around the same time. It makes sense. So
Also, people don't realize how impressive that Purdue hockey win is because Purdue hockey is a club team and
Yeah.
Illinois is a D1 program, like a
And they
scholarship
beat him by.
program.
Well, no, they beat him in overtime, then lost to him 4-2, I think.
Yeah.
But the victory was You're total. I forgot.
wait,
to
how
bring
do
that
you
up.
how do you beat somebody in overtime and then lose to him?
Yeah, I was really confused by that too.
Sports. The
Yeah.
2 different games, I think they had a doubleheader.
Oh,
Okay,
I
yeah,
was like-
yeah. That's the part we were missing there. 2 different
Gotcha.
games.
Gotcha.
I like how
Yeah.
we were like, all right, we're gonna end the show, and everybody's like, no, and just keeps talking about it.
Shout out to the women's basketball team. He's killing it from Cody.
Yeah.
That's does anyone know what their record is off the top of my head? I don't.
Not off the top of your
their
head, I have no idea what you're thinking.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I'm
can't put my
looking-
brain
I'm
in your
looking
brain.
here.
My brain could fit in your
Yeah.
brain. That's how funny my brain is. But Damon, how's
I
things?
should
Let's just keep talking so they can
5
look
and
it up.
3.
There
Purdue
we
women's
go.
basketball's 5
Yeah,
and 3.
so the Royal Rumble looks like it's going to be a pretty good show. CM Punk's going to start feuding with Seth Rollins here soon. That's going into WrestleMania season. Which
And
is,
that's talking
we're all
wrestling.
looking-
Ooh, the Columbus Crew are going to MLS Cup if we're talking about personal interests.
Florida State
uh,
should be in the playoff.
And that was talking soccer.
They should. I feel bad for them.
That really
know,
was
Russell-
hard. The press
Wow.
conference with Kirby and FSG's coach, and they're both just incredibly pissed off. Oh,
I say Florida State literally shows up to their bowl game, gets ready to go out in the field, and then just turns around and goes back to the locker room.
But
what
I
I'd
will say, all of
They
this,
just-
all of this aside, they better beat or at least play Georgia very well, or all of this is going to be like, see, yeah, you. it
Well,
didn't
the
matter, you
problem
should've
is
been
that most of the good players for both teams aren't going to play
Ex-
because it's not CFP.
yeah, that's
Exactly. And look at TCU last year, right? TCU beat Michigan, but they got demolished by Georgia. So did they not belong in the playoff because of that score? So
yeah, I think Purdue should have been in the playoff. Then they got beat by LSU, but like, shit, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Louisville lost.
All right, we got to wrap this up.
Why?
All right, folks, we are actually going to wrap it up this time. Let's beat Alabama this weekend. Purdue bounced
Beat
back, had a
Tide.
good game against Iowa. We're going to continue to hopefully right the ship. It's going to be a long season, so be ready for the ups and downs. There's going to be some there. We're not going to go undefeated, as found out by last week's game. Love you guys. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
Love
Boiler
you
up.
guys.
Boiler up.
Love you.